College recruitment starts with you. Welcome back, squad. This is your college recruitment and athletic scholarship coach, Kito Delgado, and you are listening to Full Ride, powered by URECRUITU. If this is your first time listening to our podcast, well, welcome to our team. I hope it's not your last. And I want to encourage you to subscribe to the show. Then also go back in time and listen to some of our previous episodes. And there you will find what our show's mission is all about. Our goal is to help our student athletes, along with their parents, their guardians, even our high school and club coaches who want to lend an assist to their athletes. But we want to give you some strategies that will really help you just gain a better understanding of the college recruitment process. Along the lines, we also provide you with some winning plays and some strategies that will hopefully help you gain, but then keep the attention of college coaches. And no, we can't, guarantee that by listening to our podcast each and every week, you're going to get a full ride to college. We can't guarantee you that. That would be irresponsible of us. However, it's no different than practicing your sport, right? You prepare, you go to practice, you work out, you watch film, you study your opponent, right? That doesn't guarantee you success, doesn't guarantee you're going to win, but it gives you the best opportunity possible to experience success. And that's what we want to do for you. We don't want you to wake up if you're a student athlete, 20 years from now, 30 years from now with regret. We don't want you saying, darn it, I wish I had done A, B, and C so that I could play in college. We don't want you to have any regrets, any heartache, right? So our goal is just really, we want to just empower you. We want to educate you. We want to equip you with all of our knowledge, our experience, to really help you put yourself in the best possible position for success. So that's our goal. Thank you so much for listening. And we really, again, encourage you to subscribe to the show. If you are a family that has been with us since day one, I thank you. And one thing, our one ask, because again, this is a free resource for your families. The one thing we can really ask of you, if we are delivering value, if we're helping you in any way, please leave us a review on Apple Podcast, or if you listen to us on Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, but particularly on Apple Podcast, leave us a review. Give us a show ranking. There's a 5-star option. That'd be great if you can hit that 5-star option, because that really allows us to improve our ranking on Apple Podcasts, on iTunes. So the more reviews we have, the higher the ranking we have or stars we have, we can expand our reach, and we can be listened to by more households. And that's what we want to do. We want to try to help as many families as possible, particularly our student athletes, get to that next level. And oh, by the way, if we can help mom and dad along with that that college bill, that's a win for sure. But yeah, that's our goal. We just want to kind of try to do our best to remove the uncertainty. We want to remove, or I should say reduce, the frustration, the overwhelm. We want to prevent you from making mistakes that may cost you that scholarship. We want to prevent you from overspending on recruiting services or by attending the wrong camps, the wrong showcases. That's what we're all about. So today I want to talk about why our student athletes should play multiple sports. In fact, I'm going to discuss 5 reasons why college coaches absolutely love recruiting multi-sport athletes. But before we get to that, I do want to give a quick reminder to our families. As you know, SATs are a big part, along with ACTs. They are a big part of the college recruitment process. You got to take these tests. You got to score well on them in order to be eligible to play at that next level. So we at URECRUITU, we really encourage our families to start that process as early as possible. Maybe start doing a bunch of practice tests as freshmen, right? There's a lot of free practice tests you can take. But then um, as a sophomore, you may want to consider taking a real live one. Take a real test. And that's just going to give you a good gauge of where you stand. You can see your strengths, your weaknesses, what areas of improvement you can work on. So, bunch of practice tests as freshmen, take a test as a sophomore, maybe take 2 tests as a junior, and then one final test if necessary as a senior. But the last thing you want to do is wait until your senior year to take the test, because now you're putting yourself under the 8 ball. A lot of pressure on your student athletes. So that's a recommendation that we have. And the reason why we share this is because the next SAT, well, there's actually 2 upcoming. There is one October 6th. Now, the regular registration for that has passed, but you can still take the test October 6th if you like. There is a late registration September 26th, but you will pay a little bit more to take the test if you do that one. But there is also one November 3rd. And as long as you register for that test by October 5th, there will be a fee, but it won't be as high. So there is another SAT coming up November 3rd, and the registration for that, regular registration, the deadline is October 5th, and then the late registration is October 24th. And then for all of you who prefer taking the ACT, you have a test coming up October 27th with a registration deadline of September 28th, late registration deadline of October 14th. And what I'll do in our show notes is I will include the link to register for both tests, but really encourage you to start that process as early as possible, get those reps in. And again, another great thing about that is they do allow you to combine your best scores. So maybe as a sophomore, you knock it out the park in math, and now you have, the next couple of years to really bring up your English score if necessary. So just consider that. I know I had to take it 3 times to kind of get it to a level I needed to get to, but I obviously paid off because that got me a scholarship. I was able to go to Boston University, right? So just food for thought. But now, 5 reasons college coaches absolutely love recruiting multi-sport athletes. I'll start by telling a quick story, my own personal stories, because I can speak from experience. So as a child, really starting from 7-year-old and on up, I always played multiple sports. I believe my very first sport was soccer. I was in a bowling league, believe it or not. I played tennis. I ran track. I played baseball. And I played basketball. And I did play football, which is the sport that I ended up getting a scholarship to college. But for those of you who have listened in the previous episodes, I quit football in Pop Warner. I went out for the team in 8th grade as a modified football player. That's the 8th grade year, 7th, 8th grade. So I think as a 7th grader, I can't remember the exact year, but I went out there, played half the year, and then I said, I hate this. I quit again. And I didn't play finally until my junior year of high school, my junior and senior year. But every other year, I'd always played at least 2 or 3 other sports. Oh, and I ran track. So I played a number of sports my whole life. And with basketball always being my primary sport. So all the secondary sports changed along the way, but basketball was always that primary sport, if you will. And that was a sport that I thought I was going to play in college. My mom actually sat me down as a freshman, and I remember her taking out a piece of paper and said, "Hey, write down what schools you like to go to." And of course, being a 9th grader, I thought I'm going to play basketball. So I wrote down all the top basketball teams at the time, like, Duke, North Carolina, Kansas, right? All these blue chip schools. The thing about it, though, as I've mentioned in the past, I was a shooting guard who couldn't shoot. I was 6'1", 6'2", really athletic. I probably shot 30% from the 3-point line. 70% from the foul line. But my specialty was I was just really athletic. I got up and down the court. I played pretty good defense, helped our team get rebounds. But I was more of a slasher, did backdoors, layups and dunks. And guys like me were a dime a dozen. I wasn't even that good at it. I was good. Don't get me wrong. I could play a little bit, but I wasn't what you would call, a really special basketball player. You didn't watch our games and watch me and say, "Oh wow, like he's phenomenal." And I wasn't getting recruited though. Never got a single call from a college coach for basketball. And now fast forward, I start playing football again as a junior. And I played wide receiver and I played cornerback and I returned kicks, or kickoff and punt return, and a little bit of running back. But my point was my primary position was wide receiver. And now, again, you take it to a standpoint was I was a 6'1", 6'2" wide receiver, extremely fast, pretty good hands. And now coaches were like, oh, my skill set was really desirable for a wide receiver, tall, fast, pretty good hands, decent routes, right? So all along, I always thought basketball was going to be, the sport I played in college, but it was actually football that got me the scholarship, the full athletic scholarship that I wanted. And I want to share that story with our families before I go over the 5 reasons why college coaches love recruiting multi-sport athletes, is because so many of our families, we get caught up in specialization. We think that, okay, we're going to really lock in on one sport and we're going to, get all the personal trainers, we're going to play it year round. That's going to give us a competitive advantage over the other kids. College coaches are going to really like it. And I'm not saying you can't have a primary sport, but sometimes what ends up happening is there may be another sport you are more talented at that you don't even know about. So just forget the coaches from that standpoint. Just for you personally, I believe that a big part of playing multiple sports is that it allows you to find a sport that you are really good at. And at the same time, you're able to expand your net. Because by playing football, I expanded my net. If I had just stuck to basketball, don't get me wrong, I would have still gone to college, but I wouldn't have been playing college athletics. And I would have probably graduated with over $100,000 worth of debt. Okay, so now the 5 reasons, right? 5 reasons why coaches prefer recruiting multi-sport athletes. Number 1 is injury risk. Injury risk is a big, big reason. As a matter of fact, there's a study that was put out in 2017 by the American Orthopedic Society for Sports Medicine. And they found, and I'm paraphrasing here, I'm not going to use all the big terms, but in this report, it said that high specialization athletes, so athletes that play one sport, had an 85% higher incidence of lower extremity, so knees, ankles, foot, hamstrings, so lower extremity injuries than high school athletes that played multiple sports. So if you're a college coach, think about this for a second. You are recruiting athletes. Your job relies on not only bringing in good athletes, your job relies on not only bringing in high character athletes, your job not only depends on you bringing in athletes that can stay eligible, your job also depends on student athletes that can stay on the field, are durable, right? There's an old saying, your best availability is availability, right? Well, if you're always hurt, you're no good to them. I know that sounds harsh, but at the end of the day, sorry, like if you can't help them, if you're not on the field because you're always hurt, you're not really adding much value to the team at the end of the day. So if you're a college coach, trust me, they have access to this kind of information. They are evaluating this. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't want to be extreme here. If you are a blue chip or if you're an extremely talented type student athlete and you only play basketball, you only play softball, you only play baseball. Don't get me wrong. They're going to still recruit you, but just understand if you're more of that middle of the run type athlete, they are looking at this because what they're finding is that by playing one sport, if you specialize in one sport, what are you doing? You are using the same muscle groups over and over and over and over again. Same muscle groups, same movements. So there's wear and tear. But now if you are playing multiple sports spread out throughout the years, throughout the different seasons, well, then that reduces, not, and you still may get hurt, but it reduces the likeliness of you getting hurt, the likelihood of you getting hurt. So that's big. And coaches look at that. So they, when looking at the big picture, I'm not saying it's going to eliminate you if you just play one sport, but it definitely helps you look good to a coach when able to say, okay, there's low injury risk because of that wear and tear factor. Again, in a very competitive landscape, it's important. So in their minds, less injury risk. And that's big when you're talking about some of these scholarships totaling $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year. You play 5 years, that's over $200,000 worth of education that you get paid for. They don't mess up and have someone that's always hurt. So that's just something to consider. Number two, multi-sport athletes tend to be more coachable. And here's why. Because think about this. When you play multiple sports, what ends up happening? You are exposed to different coaching styles. No coach is the same. One coach may be in your face, maybe a yeller or a screamer. Another coach may be more of an encourager. One coach may be really strict on time and when practice starts. There's just so many different variables when you are exposed to multiple coaches. You have to learn to play with different styles. And why is this important at the college level? Because once you get to college, and we'll take football as an example, I'll use myself. I played wide receiver. So therefore, I had a wide receiver coach who was very different than my offensive coordinator. And then I also played special teams. We had a special teams coordinator. And then, of course, I had interaction with our head coach. So on one team, I was consistently interacting with 4 different coaches, all with 4 different styles. So that shows a coach, particularly at the college level where you play, you tend to have 2 or 3 coaches that you are constantly kind of talking with. If you play basketball, you may have your, if you play center, you have your position coach. And then you have the head coach. So at minimum, you always have at least 2 coaches that you have to respond to. And that's important for coaches because they realize that in high school, you tend to have one coach, maybe 2, depending on what it is and how many athletes there are. But if you're only exposed to one coaching style, in high school, playing one sport, again, it's not going to knock you. But what does a college coach prefer? They prefer to have that athlete that is exposed to multiple coaching styles. So that's definitely something that you want to consider. Another benefit, another reason why coaches love working with multi-sport athletes. Another one is the competition, right? Here's the thing. When you specialize in one sport, yes, you play games. Don't get me wrong. AAU and travel teams, you do play games. And you play a lot of tournaments. But at the end of the day, the stakes aren't all that high. You win some tournaments, you lose some tournaments. Doesn't really matter. You guys are going to probably play the next week anyway, right? As long as you guys are willing to pay, most times they'll accept you. You can play, right? Well, when you play multiple sports, particularly in high school where the stakes are high, maybe you have, holiday tournaments, and obviously you're trying to win your conference, you're trying to win, your section, you're trying to win states. The competition now levels up a little bit. The stakes are higher. And now coaches like to see how you manage yourself in high stress when the stakes are at their highest. How do you respond to the pressure? And yes, don't get me wrong, there's pressure in the moment, if you will, of an AAU tournament, but it's still a little bit different when you are playing in the state semifinals and, you got to make a play to help send your team off to the state finals. There's a little bit of different pressure. And coaches want to see how you respond in those competitive moments. And by playing multiple sports, you are putting yourself in you're putting yourself in multiple competitive, I should say more competitive situations. So that's just something that you also want to consider, is the fact that you are competing where the stakes are at its highest when you play multiple sports. So that's another reason why you definitely want to consider playing at least 2, if not 3 sports. All right, so number 4, wrapping up with 4, followed by number 5. But number 4 is all about versatility. Coaches just love well-rounded athletes. So here's a quick, I don't want to call it breaking news, but here's a reality for my athletes out there. Coaches love recruiting athletes, and a lot of times they don't really care. Now, in some situations, let's say if you play softball, you're a pitcher. You play soccer, you're a goalie. Hockey, you're a goalie. So those real specialty positions, that's one thing. But for the most part, if you play football and you're a wide receiver, well, they can, they don't really care if you play wide receiver, running back, cornerback. They just love that you're an athlete. Same thing with basketball a lot of times. It's just any of those team-related sports. Soccer, you may play defense in high school, but then you get to college and they may put you on the offensive end. So college coaches love recruiting just well-rounded athletes because it gives them, as a coach, more flexibility, right? So like I just said, coaches, they look at it and when they're watching you compete, they're just saying, you know what? I don't know exactly where we're going to put this student athlete, but we just know that we'll find a home for them. So maybe you play, like I said, wide receiver in high school. That's the position that you excel at. But then you get to college and they realize, you know what, we don't really need help at wide receiver. But you know what? Our starting safety just got hurt. A lot of transferable, movements between a wide receiver and a cornerback or a safety, they'll put you there, right? So that versatility that you gain, that athleticism that you gain by playing multiple sports allows you to then be more allows a coach to have more flexibility within their team. And that's huge, right? If you're someone that can be able to say, hey, coach, I'm an athlete. Wherever you guys need me, think about that. Coach comes and calls you. They're recruiting you, and you are confident, and you're able to say to them, hey, coach, I don't really care where I play. Just put me on the field. I want to help the team win, whether that's on offense or defense, doesn't matter to me. That just helps you get recruited. So a coach is actually thinking about that along those lines. Again, they're saying all things equal, I got this multi-sport athlete. They're just an athlete here. I can put them anywhere. That helps them really fill out their roster. But then also from a selfish standpoint, you see this all the time. You see it where athletes are, they play, again, I keep bringing football, but this happens a lot where they play basketball in college. And then their senior year, they say, I'm going to go try playing football. And they decide to play tight end. And then they excel as tight ends. And now before you look up, they're playing in the NFL as an NFL tight end where they played basketball the whole time in college. So from a personal standpoint, it actually allows you to possibly play a second sport in college if that's your desire. You have Antonio Gates, you have Tony Gonzalez. You have all these athletes who played one sport in college and then they tried a secondary sport and then they ended up going pro in their secondary sport. So just from a personal standpoint, if you always are playing multiple sports throughout your whole life, or when you get to college, if you decide, you know what, I want to play a second sport, you can pick that up. But from a standpoint of a college coach, they love it because you allow them to, really have more flexibility when filling out their roster, and that's huge. And now lastly, wrap this up for you, is when you specialize in a sport your whole life, a lot of coaches tend to believe that there's a chance, not saying that's always the case, but there's a chance you've already hit your ceiling. So multi-sport athletes tend to have higher ceilings because, they haven't spent all the hours, working on, one sport, for 10 years, from seventh grade, 7-year-old all the way up to 17 years old, right? They haven't had the personal training. They haven't had that coach. They haven't gone to all the camps, the clinics, and all this stuff. And like I mentioned earlier, college coaches are all about reducing their risk. So they may look at an athlete and say, when all things are equal, they're recruiting 2 athletes and one kid plays 3 sports, 4 sports. Another child, student athlete plays 1. They may have questions in the back of their mind saying, has this athlete already kind of peaked? Have we already seen the best of this athlete? And that was the case with me, right? They looked at me when I was being recruited. I wasn't a polished wide receiver, but they saw me. They're like, you know what? He's been playing 2 years of, really 2 years of organized football. He's a little rough around the edges, but you know what? You can't teach height and you can't teach speed. We'll work with him. So with me, when they recruited me, they saw a lot of potential. People love recruiting potential. They don't want headaches, right? They don't want someone who they have to worry about in the classroom. But when it comes to raw talent, coaches, they have egos and they believe that, we're going to pull out more. We can get the best out of that athlete. So they love recruiting recruits with high ceilings. A lot of times, again, I'm not saying this is going to disqualify you, but if they're choosing between you and somebody else, that could be a deciding factor. They may say, you know what, does this athlete have more room to grow versus this one? And single sport athletes tend to have lower ceilings than multi-sport athletes. So take that what you will, take that information and do what you want with it. I'm not advocating if you're a senior in high school picking up a brand new sport now, but you never say never. But right now, if you're a family, you have a 7th grader, an 8th grader, 9th grader, and you're just playing one sport, you're practicing that one sport year round. Try mixing in another sport. See what it does for you. Expand your reach, your comfort zone. If you play football, run track, right? Play soccer. Pick up a lacrosse stick, right? There's so many different. There's some great sports, and then also just from a personal standpoint, you get to meet new friends, right? New teams. And I just think you never know what you'll discover by playing multiple sports. So that's just my take. And I hope, sharing these, 5 tips as to why you should do it from a recruiting standpoint is helpful to you. But I'd love to hear from you, right? Again, email me, Coach Kito, @gmail.com. Give me your thoughts. Give me some feedback, any questions you have, an opinion you have, but also for upcoming shows, if there's something you want to hear, a topic in particular, shoot me an email. You can also get social with us, connect with us on Instagram and Twitter at URECRUITU, all one word. And then you can also like us on Facebook, and the letter U, Recruit You. Just search the letter U, Recruit You on Facebook. Give us that like. And don't forget, I kind of said the winning play earlier today on the first couple of minutes, but make sure you go ahead and register for those SATs. I'll include the links in the show notes. But until next time, this is your college recruitment and athletic scholarship coach, Kito Delgado, reminding you that college recruitment starts with you. What steps are you taking today to earn an athletic scholarship tomorrow?